Hi there. My name is Soyeon. I'm with Open Door Studies. And basically, I've been conducting these experimental paint light series. Every month, taking a artist that has made a memorable impression on us. So today's example is Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, as we know him. And we're going to be painting here in just a couple of minutes, the bedroom in Arles from 1889. A little bit about me before we get started. Hosting these monthly paint like series has been an experiment in the works for about almost a year now. I've been really enjoying connecting with folks from all over the globe who share the same kind of passion for these artists, whether it's Matisse or Van Gogh or Bonnard. A lot of post-impressionism is what has just striked my interest. And I see art as being a huge force in our lives. I'm actually reading a book right now that kind of captures the value of art. So before I delve into the presentation, I wanted to try and share a little bit of that insight from this book. It's called The Accidental Masterpiece on the Art of Life and Vice Versa by Michael Kimmelman. So that's the book that I'm currently reading right now. On page 111 of it, it talks about maximizing the art of maximizing your time. Just wanted to read a little excerpt on that because I think it kind of showcases the value of art appreciation for art enthusiasts such as ourselves. The author says sometimes art can be a refuge from life, and in extreme cases, it is a second chance at life. Another way to put a familiar phrase about the relative lengths of art in life is to say that what makes great art great is that it remains eternally young, while we don't. It's a commonplace observation that a Matisse or a Picasso or a Van Gogh becomes like a new artist every decade. His or her work is shown because as time passes, circumstances change, generations change, but the artist's work continues to have something new to say. And like this artist, Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, as I'm hearing is the proper pronunciation, his work from 1889 still resonates with us over 100 years since he painted this. And so what a wonderful piece of work we're able to, in essence, learn by doing today, by painting this. Okay, I have a little bit of a, if you're not asking a question, if I could ask you to put yourself on mute. And then obviously like during the session, if there's questions, you can unmute and ask a question. Usually this is a more intimate setting, so there's not a lot of extra noise, but if you would make sure you're on mute if you're not speaking, I'd appreciate it. So you're in the right place. We're gonna start painting Vincent van Gogh's bedroom in Arles. This is the piece that we're gonna start painting soon. I think for me, just reading that excerpt from the book, The Accidental Masterpiece on the Art of Life and Vice Versa, really art has such a profound and significant experience for each one of us. And who's to say what that experience is? Only each of us can tell ourselves what a painting brings to us in terms of meaning. If anything, I think, the artistic expression is one of individuality. So we may observe Vincent van Gogh's technique, his letters and such as we lead up to this painting. But I would ask you to be open-minded in terms of how that outcome of the painting comes forth for you, because it may not be exactly one for one to Vincent's technique. And in that, there may be beauty related to that in terms of your own individual expression. So please keep an open mind on how it might come out on your canvas or paper today. There's no right or wrong. It's we're literally learning by doing this together. I'm gonna probably proceed at a pretty fast rate just because I want to cover most of the painting for you, but please feel free to take your time after the session as well to finish your painting. So a little bit more about Vincent van Gogh. His life was short and nomadic. By the time he died at the age of 37, he lived in 37 separate residences across 24 cities. And he was mostly a boarder or a guest. In 1888, he moved into the only home he truly considered his own, the beloved Yellow House in Arles, in France. And of his many bedrooms, he immortalized this one from the Yellow House. He actually did this piece, the bedroom, 3 times. First in 1888, and then he did 2 more in 1889. The second and third ones were prompted by the first one being damaged by flooding. And then the third one, which was smaller than the first 2, was a gift to his family, his mom and sister. And we know that he wrote a lot of letters to his family, especially to his brother Theo. So let's take a quick look at the 3 versions of the bedroom. And as we mentioned on the event page itself, we're going to be focused on the second version of this one for this session. I think there's meaning and interpretation in every single one of these. And yes, there's similarities, but yes, there's differences as well. So just to clarify, we're going to focus on this version, which is currently housed in the Chicago gallery at the moment. So just a few things that you might start noticing. So to get familiar with this piece. So obviously this is a bedroom. There's a perspective where we're looking at the foot of the bedroom or the front of the bedroom. The bed itself makes a pretty big presence in the room. We notice the commonality of the windows, the green windows, the window panes. And we notice the commonality on what's hanging on the walls. So there's about 4 paintings on the side wall, a painting on the far end wall, and a mirror on the far end wall. And then there's some pieces of furniture. So there's like 2 chairs, an orange table, and like a towel or a blanket hanging. And you'll notice some things like he directs the user eye into like a perspective that leads up to the end of the room. And you'll see these little creases in the walls itself. And as I was practice painting this for this session, I noticed that there's significance in not only the walls, but also the doors as well on both sides of the room. So it adds more dimension. There was a video, so all of the links in this presentation that are sourced from other areas of the internet are linked. So feel free to link through those in your presentation document, and I'll resend it after the session along with the video recording. But in essence, there's a YouTube video linked to this because there was a study done on Vincent's techniques for his bedroom series. So at the Art Institute of Chicago is the second painting's residence at the moment. Just a little bit more about this painting. He wrote to his brother Theo, "It amused me enormously doing this bare interior with a simplicity a la Seurat, like George Seurat. Seurat, I'm familiar with like his pointillism or like using like dotted technique to fill colors to make his paintings. Seurat also had some incredible like ocean landscapes that I've seen and appreciated. So Van Gogh was actually, one to be friends with Gogh, or I'm mispronouncing his last name, but a lot of different artists he was inspired by during his time. So a little bit more about his coloring and such. Using flat tints, coarsely brushed in full impasto, the walls, pale lilac, the floor in a broken and faded red. So he's saying pale lilac for the walls, the floor being red, the chairs and the bed, chrome yellow, the pillows and the sheet very pale yellow green, the bed spread blood red, the dressing table orange, the wash basin blue, the window green. I wish to express utter repose with all these very different tones. So Van Gogh was a master colorist. He purposefully chose super bright colors because he knew that his paints would fade over time. So this gives us some clue into some of the different colors that he was expecting to use for his bedroom series. To our eyes, says the art critic, the canvas seems to teem with nervous energy, instability, and turmoil, an effect heightened by the sharply receding perspective. The next picture that I'm showing here is as a result of the Art Institute's analysis. Actually, it's like a technical analysis on the painting itself and the intended coloring. So this is an interpretation done by the Institute. So as we also noted in his letter, the walls being pale lilac, the floor being broken and like red tiles, the yellow tones of the chairs and the bed, and the scarlet blood red of the bedspread and the green windows. It's just a fascinating view of that. And in comparison to over time, it faded. So we're looking at something like this. I would say that just pick one, a version that you'd like to go with. I'm going to stick with this version, maybe add some self-expression in there based on what we're hearing from Van Gogh in his letters and such. So just a few snippets of Van Gogh's letters around this piece. As you can see on the right-hand side here, it's a sketch that Van Gogh did of the bedroom piece before he started painting. It may be worth noting like the simple lines that he drew for like the bed frame. Note the accents on the floor tiles, the red floor tiles, the different placement and composition of the pieces of furniture here. This is a snippet from his letter to Theo. So what's interesting in light of the pandemic, I think we're spending a lot of time indoors, especially in our own individual bedrooms. So what Van Gogh is saying is that grander style to things to be suggestive here of rest or of sleep in general, looking at the painting should rest the mind, or rather the imagination. So he had an intent with this bedroom painting, some kind of respite for the mind or something to prompt into our imaginations. He reiterates the colorings, the walls of pale violet, red tiles, bedstead chairs are fresh butter yellow, sheet and pillows very bright lemon green, scarlet red blanket, window green, dressing table orange, basin blue, the doors lilac. That's all. Nothing in this bedroom with the shutters closed. The solidity of the furniture should also now express unshakable repose. Portraits on the wall, mirror, hand towel, and some clothes. The frame, so he talks about the frame of the painting. As there's no white in the painting, will be white. So he wanted the frame of this to be white. So let's take a look again at what we're going to be painting today. So feel free to be a little bit adventurous on this interpretation, because I think the technical analysis from the Institute showed that some of these colors have indeed faded over time, since it's been over 100 years. And then we're going to start sketching here very shortly. Just want to give you a little bit more, and you can read this at your own leisure, but he wrote about the bedroom a number of times. And this is his other artist, Paul Gogh. And I know it's hard for me to pronounce his last name. So Paul actually visited Vincent for a while in Arles. They actually had friendship, but they also had some controversy together. They some of the readings that I've read was that Vincent's ear situation could have been related to his relationship with Gogh. It's very interesting, right? When we bring light to the letters and the life that he may have endured, Vincent endured. And Vincent overall was an extremely hard worker. He painted hundreds of paintings throughout his short artistic life. So what a tragedy when his life was cut short at the age of 37. But how amazing is it that we're able to bring some life back to his work by recreating it together in this setting. Just a few more references here. We don't really have time to go over every single excerpt from these letters, but I really picked the ones that I felt like would resonate with us, as we are all artists in my point of view. Here's another letter. From Theo. Theo really liked the bedroom, the coloring of it, the intensity of the color. And then that's about it for the presentation part. Feel free to follow the Eventbrite page for Open Door Studies. I'm hosting these events on a monthly basis from now on. And also the completed work will be posted on the Instagram with Open Door Studies, or you can follow on the Facebook page. Recently just also published my latest poetry book. It's called Depth and Clarity. If you're interested, as I publish my own poetry and artwork as well. So here's the latest paperback version of it that just came out on Amazon. I would love to get feedback from any of my fellow artists here on what you think of it. So let me stop sharing my screen. I think we're gonna get started on sketching. So let me share my other screen. All right, so hopefully everyone's hearing everything okay. Let's get started on sketching. So I'm gonna get my pencil ready, and I'll switch the sharing to my local screen so you can see the canvas. So thank you again for being patient. I think we finally got the angle that we're looking for. So it's gonna be hopefully smooth sailing from here on out. So let me just make sure that everybody's got grounded on the narrowing in perspective here in your sketch. There's
I have a question.
Yes.
I follow everything you're doing. The only thing is that I can't find a picture of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Can you put it up real quick so that I can take a picture of it?
Yes, and I also emailed it as well.
I have an email, but I touched everything. It didn't open to a picture.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can show
you.
And
I don't want to waste your time or mine looking for the picture. So if you have it handy, put it up. I'll take a picture of it.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Here's the picture. Can you see it?
Perfectly. Thank you. I got it.
Okay, thanks. Can you guys still see my canvas now too?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Oh my goodness. Great. So we have the major walls. We have somewhat of a bed frame. Don't worry about it being perfect at the moment. We just need to merely capture the amount of space that it's taking up in the painting. And then let's put in some of the other big items from the piece as well. So as we mentioned, Van Gogh adds perspective with the doors on the left and right. So real quick, on the left edge of the painting, we want to do a vertical line up from the bottom of the floor that we created. That's your door number one on the left. Door number one on the left has indents in the door itself.
Sorry.
Yep. Sorry, was there a question? There's an indent of the door itself. And there's like some creases to indicate like there's a door crease right here. So that's the left door. And then let's take a look at the right-hand side door here. So if we look at next to the bed, there's the other door. It meets the foot of the bed. And from the top of the foot of the bed, it has a vertical line up like so. And then it meets not the bottom of the painting, but at the bottom of the foot of the frame of the bed. And it's angled as such, diagonally, like so. And then we do some L-shaped indents for the door frame on the right. So there's a L-shaped indent on the top, in the middle of the bed, which kind of meets the top of the bed frame. And then one more bigger one at the bottom of the door on the right at an angle diagonally like so. So now we have a perspective of the bed, the walls, the door frame, and then we're gonna adorn the walls in just a little bit, but first let's go through the furniture here. So Van Gogh mentioned the yellow chairs, the butter yellow that he used for the chairs. If you look at the painting itself, it's different tones of yellow. So we'll get there eventually. I'm gonna work you through the sketch, and then we're gonna do a slight backwash of the painting to get us a head start from a color perspective. And then we'll build from lighter colors to darker colors throughout the painting. So let's look at the chairs here. If you look at the left again, the chairs basically have this like basket weave type of seat. And so the cushion of the chair itself is like this, I would just like a almost circular square cushion. The frame of the chair juts up through next to the door, and then it comes down. So the chair leg comes down to the floor here, and there's two little foot type rungs that you can like rest your feet on, basically. And then there's another chair leg that supports the chair at the front. And then there's two sharply angled foot rungs here, right? With the leg here that it meets at the front of the chair. And then there's the back angle here of the chair itself, where there's two rungs for your back. And then there's a broad frame here at the back of the chair. So we're just denoting the space for the chair itself here. And as you can tell, it's like an X in the middle of the chair for the indent for when the person sits down. So I'm just roughly sketching that in, and he indicates it's kind of like a basket weave type chair by accenting with ochre in these like little lines here for like that basket weave effect. Up to you how detailed you want to make the chair, but I think these primary lines should give you a good start for our painting. And then as we follow the line over here, let's put in the table itself, the orange table. So if you look at the angle of the table, it comes out at an angle towards the middle of the room, the top of the table itself. So I'm just denoting that here. And then there's the top shelf comes out, top of the table comes out like so. There's a little bit of the table that juts out from the base of the table. So the jut out part leave some space, and then you're going to create the room for the shelf. So there's a leg, and then the leg comes down at an angle behind it. And then if you follow the shelf line here, the top of the table itself is wider, and it kind of narrows in a bit at the when it meets the floor at an angle. So creating that a little bit of dimension there for the table. And then it meets the parallel diagonal line here to the back of the table. It has as you can see, the back of the legs are much smaller and at an angle here. And then we just follow that line down here. And then I would just depict like an L. As you can tell from Vincent's piece, he doesn't sketch the whole shelf like so. It's like the L part of the shelf with the little knob at the front underneath the ledge of the table. So let's not forget the back leg. So the back leg, if you kind of like draw an imaginary line from the front leg, meets the back leg, and it's slightly wider at top and hones in at the bottom.
So
yes,
I have to leave, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. I think you're a wonderful artist and a terrific teacher.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll send you the recording. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Thanks. So here's the wash basin. As he mentioned in his letters, it's a blue, and there's a contrast to this blue with the orange table itself. I would just roughly draw in these items. The wash basin, it looks like toiletries next to the wash basin, maybe like a brush of sorts with 2 little glass canisters. Okay. Since we're here, let's finish off the leftmost wall. Just a little bit down from the door to the left, there's a little nail there. And then there's a free-flowing hand towel or body towel of sorts. So I'm just kind of making that organic feel to a towel. And it has folds, so you're depicting the folds a bit in a curved line. And it comes down to a tip as it rests against the wall. So we have that. And then we have the mirror behind the orange table. So there's 3 or 4 things at the far end wall. So there's the mirror with a thin line to hold it onto the wall. And then there's half of the green windowsill that comes down and meets the top of the orange table almost. And this windowsill is at an angle. It's almost like this, at an angle between the bed and the table. And then you'll notice that there's 2 lines that open the window in 2. And then you'll notice the dark green lines of the window sill that come down at an angle. And we'll need to add some border for that bottom of the windowsill. There we go. The other lines for the other window frame come down at an angle as well, 1, 2, and 3. All right. And then, believe it or not, we're almost done with the sketch. We got 1 more chair and a couple of accessory items on the walls. As you can tell, the far end chair from a perspective, because we're honing in, is smaller. And so you'll notice that the frame of that chair starts right under the window frame. So you have the back frame here. You have the far end leg here, similar to the other chair in the beginning of the room. And then you have the far end chair, the back of the chair here with the two rungs. You have the cushion, which comes out at an angle. And then you have the far end leg with two rungs for the feet. The front leg, which comes down towards the floor of the room at an angle, and then two rungs for the feet here. And then this leg is met by the basket cushion. Once again, has kind of like a faint X type of cushion here. And we'll add ochre later for the weave effect against the butter yellow. And thanks for bearing with me with the splotches of the, what do you call it? The lead of the pencil. I'm a lefty, so it tends to kind of smear a little bit, but it's all good. We're going to be painting over it anyway. So let's do a little bit of detail for the bed itself. So there's a significance of the bed in terms of the scarlet red of the bedspread. So we will depict that a little bit more from like a space thing. So we have the spread that's more of an organic form that comes out and over the bed frame here. And the spread meets the white sheets and two blocks of pillows at the top of the bed. These pillows are kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a yellowish white, if you will. And then that meets the bed frame itself, which I realize mine needs to come up more here. There we go. And then there's the foot of the bed, which you can tell there's some fine lines to it in terms of the grain of the wood and some vertical lines depicting the foot of the bed. So just roughly sketching that. All right, so behind the bed, there's two things. Now we're at the far end of the room, which is narrower. However, there is a portrait of a landscape. So there's that rectangle here, and that rectangle has a thin wire to it hanging up the landscape. I just merely depict a circular type of rough circular tree for that landscape with a horizon line within that picture frame and some other darker trees to the left of it. But I'm not really putting a lot of detail there. We're going to use a lot of the paint to depict that. And then on the right-hand side, you have two portraits. If you'll notice, they're at an angle. So they're like at an angle up that way. So there's a portrait of Vincent, it looks like, that meets the top crease of the canvas. It's at an angle like so. And then it comes down here. And then there's another frame that surrounds it. And we're going to depict most of Vincent's face through paint, but I'm just putting like basically like a head and like some shoulders there, roughly. Then there's one that gets cut off a bit more, also at an angle. It's a female portrait. So there's the border for the female portrait. It gets cut off on top. There's the border, female portrait. Just head and shoulders, if you will. Maybe a little bit of hair there. Then there's for the head. And then meeting the lines under these two portraits, there's two more abstract landscape type, cream colored, whitish paintings on the wall. So those are also at an angle here. So depict these lines at an angle, their frame, and then same thing underneath the lady portrait. There's a more of a landscaped angle, landscaped frame here with the border around it. And it looks like trees, but they're so abstract, it's hard to tell what they are, but we will use color and paints to depict that here. Okay. All right. Okay, and then obviously last but not least, we want to sketch in the floor. So what you'll notice is that with the second painting, he had more definitive lines in the tile. So the tile itself, I just roughly, to give our eyes some cues for emphasis on the tile, I just roughly put in some squares here, and then just following along, you know, the painting itself, it looks like he emphasizes some of the tile, but not all of it, and at an angle. Just so I'm following that line. And then depicting some, I actually like the green or mint green tiles that he depicts here. And when I went through this, actually there was a lot, one of the articles earlier depicted a lot of nervous energy in the painting. It's subject to your own interpretation. I did the practice painting, which is behind my shoulder here, and I did notice that some of that come through when I tried it myself as well. But also there's something peaceful about the painting. I think there's a lot that can come through from this painting. But anyways, we're roughly done with the sketch. So we're gonna move on to painting. Most of the floor is gonna be done in like a light pink whitewash. And then I will do a bluish, or if you prefer the original intent color, it would be a pale lilac for the far end walls. But I'm gonna do like a bluish, maybe a tinge of lilac in the far end walls. If you're one that needs a lot of guidance from your pencil sketches, just make sure your wash is very diluted so you can still see your lines from the sketches. So I'm getting my colors ready here. So I have the pink that I'm getting ready for the floor.
Are you using watercolor or are you using acrylic?
I'm using acrylic, but you can use whatever you have on hand. So I'm going to use like a cyan, and I'm going to dilute that with water, with my acrylic. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with a red. I have a cadmium, red medium, or any sort of red that you might have. Also have a cobalt blue. It's really up to you what the colors will translate to, as we're also doing our own means of self-expression and interpretation.
Can I just ask, is this for the floor color?
Yes. So the floor, we're gonna do like a wash in a very light pink or very diluted red.
Mhm.
And that will help us like seem to make a lot of progress very quickly. And then we'll build on the colors as we go along from lighter to darker. But yeah, that's how I ended up doing the practice sessions for this. And it came out fairly nicely. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be just, just covering those general areas. You can avoid the areas if you prefer, or cover them. It doesn't really matter, because we're going to build on some of these colors. Just like Van Gogh built on the floor itself. He may have started off with the red, but as you can see, the final painting has like some sort of, mint green tones in the tile floor. So we'll be building color as well. So just make sure that when you're painting and you're using a canvas to go beyond the edge of the canvas, you want to make sure it doesn't feel like the painting stops all of a sudden at the edge. So I usually paint over the edge a bit. It's called a gallery wrap as well. If you end up painting over the edge across the border that houses the canvas itself. So yeah, I did a very, very, very light red wash at the bottom. And now I'm gonna do, with a different paintbrush, I'm gonna do the blue wash, or the blue lilac, if you prefer the lilac. Oops. I think he was very purposeful in his different colorings, because just even the orange table contrasted with the blue wash basin. When it comes through at the end, it's just like magic how it comes together. And if you really enjoy this piece, then feel free to try it multiple times. I feel like every interpretation brings uniqueness to it as well. I didn't need to color the bed, but it's okay. I'm going to be coloring over the bed. Okay. All right. So the next step, I'm going to be focusing on the lighter elements, like the bed and the chairs, that are what he depicted as a butter yellow. And then I will have ochre available as well to accentuate some of the basket weave of the seat cushion. So here's my yellow. So I can still see the legs and the two rungs, the seat cushion, and then the legs in the front, the two rungs at a diagonal, the base, the back base, the two rungs supporting the back. Same thing with the far end chair as well. So we got the far end accentuated leg of the chair, the back base leg, and then met by the broader base in the back and the two smaller back rungs, the seat cushion, the leg that juts out the front towards the middle of the room, the two little rungs on each side, side and front, and the other leg of the seat. I'm going to use my yellow to start filling out the bed as well. The bed builds from a yellow to more beigeish straw with hints of yellow type tones. You'll notice more of the yellow tone on the bed frame itself, the one that comes at an angle here. And I'm going to start building on that bed frame color to darker yellow tones. One more thing while we're at it, I realized I forgot to sketch the coat rack or the shirt rack, which is fine. Basically, I'm just adding some yellow to that rack right behind the bed. And there will be blue shirts that kind of loosely hang off the back of that. Since I got my yellow open, I'm also going to start building the wooden frames on top on the right wall. Trying to make progress on that. And I also got my yellow still, so I'm gonna denote the sunlight, or I think it's the sunlight that comes through the green window frames. It's on the right-hand side of each window frame, if you look. So we're gonna paint over with the darker green borders, but vertically, there's yellowish white light that comes through the green window frames. So I'm depicting that. And let me just check the rest of this. And as you can tell, there's some greenish but yellowish in the portrait, in the landscape frame in the back as well. I'm just trying to leverage my use of yellow across the painting itself. Okay. Okay. You should add a little bit of white to your yellow because we're going to try to do the pillows and the sheets under them and the mirror to the left of the green windows. And a little bit of the portraits hanging on the wall are like a whitish yellow, if you will.
Mine is like a real ochre.
Yeah, you can use ochre too. So let me verbalize that. So basically, before I use my actual ochre, what I'm trying to do is fill out the lighter ones, lighter tones. So let me just get a new paintbrush here. The mirror itself, and subject to your own interpretation, it's almost like a cool Cool meaning maybe like a small smidgen of blue added to your white for the mirror. And on the upper left corner of that mirror, there's a green smidgen. I'm just building that up here. And then the yellow that was added to the white, I am using that for the pillows here. The bedspread a little bit. And then you can use the ochre between the two pillows. As you'll notice, they're separated slightly. Okay. And these two frames here are a very light yellow with like very abstract, cool lines vertically. So I'm gonna leverage the color I made for the pillows for that. Okay. Now for the ochre. Sorry, I still have some white here that I'm gonna leverage for the light through the window as well. Just a tint there would be good of white. So it adds dimension to the window. I'm going back over the mirror just one more time. One more layer of a cool white blue for the mirror. Okay. Let me get my ochre. And then I also read that Vincent would apply color directly to the canvas as well. So you might want to experiment with that. And then obviously his works have a lot of texture. So it's a buildup of that texture using the paints. Let me just.
Totally unprepared. I saw this at 10 to 12.
Oh.
And I said, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's okay.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. That's right. Exactly right.
Just having fun.
Yeah, we're having fun.
And learning.
We're learning by doing. So the chair, I love the chair, the basket weave chair. I've actually purchased a few through thrift stores. So remember that little X that we sketched? So I'm kind of like going over that X with little Vincent-like emphasis to the texture of the chair. So short brush strokes, layering a lot of paint. We're starting to have fun with this now, right? So, and we're building that color. So you can lighten your ochre a little bit for the chair itself. So the back of the chair, it's not a pure yellow, right? So I'm just kind of building that in. And at the end, we're probably not gonna have enough time to do all the minute details, but what I highly suggest doing at the very end, after everything's dried, is observe the lines that Vincent re-emphasized as borders around each item. And that technique is very similar to a lot of the Japanese prints that inspired Vincent. So meaning it's almost like a graphic detail that he does at the very end to emphasize the line of the shelf, for example, to emphasize the line of each chair. So right now, although I painted it like straw yellow, if you notice in the painting itself, he outlines the lines at the edges of each chair. So that,
the light.
yes, with a darker color. So that really will make your painting pop at the very end. So I'm just building on this color here.
That's a good point about the outline, like adding the outlines in afterwards. I was going to use a fine liner.
Yes, you can do that as well. And Matisse did similar things as well. Like he would really do that graphic like outline.
Okay,
You can use a Sharpie, a marker even, or a very thin paintbrush. And I used a navy color for my practice painting with this. I don't know if I can show you guys real quick. So here's my practice of this. As you can see, I outlined it with a dark blue.
I see what you did.
Wow, yeah. Wow, yeah.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, we'll get there. Whoops, they're at an angle.
I had a freak. I painted everything purpley, and then the mirror, I did a little white over it, and it looks like a mirror.
Wow.
It came out silvery.
Is there any way you could put up the sketch or the second version of the painting as a participant? I had problems downloading, so I don't have a reference except on my other Kindle, which looks like it's going to go dead in about 2 minutes.
Yes, let me see.
Yeah.
1 second.
Sure.
Share my.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But can you guys still see my camera?
No, because now we don't see your sketch. We see the painting.
But you should be able to switch, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I'm not sure if I understand Zoom well enough to actually know what to suggest.
Yeah. You can go to the link itself. And then resize your window.
Mm-hmm.
Side by side on your. Does that make sense? So.
Nothing.
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch that.
I didn't either.
So, meaning if you Google and then have that open.
Yeah.
The screen. I don't know why there's an. Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Okay, if you're not asking a question, would you mind muting? And then if you have a question, you can unmute. Sorry. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry, I had to mute somebody because I had to mute all participants because there was a reverb or like a echo. So yeah, we can continue chatting. It's just when you're not speaking, just try to mute yourselves. So yeah, I'm also trying to find out how Zoom can do the more side by side on this. But it seems like when I shared my screen with the painting, it's like one or the other with the Zoom capability. So my suggestion was to bring it up in a new Google window for you, and then resize your window so then it becomes a side by side. Hopefully that's fair. How are we feeling? So we've made quite a bit of progress on the yellows. Obviously, there's a frame for the ochre that we can use for the far end landscape piece. So I'm trying to just depict that frame here at the far end. There's also a frame for the portraits frame border on the wall. So there's a Vincent frame here. And then there's a lady frame here that gets cut off, both at an angle. And then there's Vincent's mustache, which is kind of ochre. So I'm just doing a quick little. I'll come back to his mustache and hair, but I'm leveraging the ochre there. Same thing with the lady. She seems to have some curly ochre hair. So I'm just doing that.
Question. Are you using a watercolor pencil or are you using a marker?
I am using an acrylic paint using a paintbrush.
Right now in your hand, what you did here, paintbrush?
Paintbrush. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And then obviously we can use the ochre in the bed frame as well. So the bed is at an angle. As you can see, it's more lighter straw here alongside the bottom of the bed. The foot of the bed has a deeper, warmer ochre-like coloring to it. And then later on at the very end, you can emphasize some of the boards at the foot of the bed. And then as you can tell at the very end, you can then also emphasize the edge of the bed where the curvature is. If you look at Van Gogh's painting, he does that with a very dark line at the top. And then he also outlines the very base of that, the bed frame as well. So right now I'm just trying to make sure that we emphasize that bed frame. The vertical lines. Okay. Right. And let's not forget the coat rack behind the bed. It's leveraging some of that warm or ochre as well. Literally I'm just painting a horizontal bar with little dots to depict the rack itself. And then we're gonna hang some blue jackets or shirts like in the painting. I'm gonna leverage the ochre slightly and the hand towel. The hand towel at the base has some red lines to it. I'm gonna layer the colors. So there's some white in there too. And then at the very end, you'll just need to make sure to outline it, just like Vincent did. He outlined the sharp lines of the folds. Okay. Now building on the ochre, or you can decide to use a warm orange like Vincent mentioned in his letters to Theo. The orange table, so dark orange table on the upper left corner. I'm gonna make my orange with red and yellow. And yeah, we'll need to emphasize the lines of the table at the very end as well. As you can tell, the dark lines. Just painting over the basin for now, and then I'll come back to the basin. Orange, orange, orange leg, orange leg, orange leg at the back, orange leg at the back, and the ledge juts out past the leg. Orange ledge. I'm gonna layer in some ochre to that orange. I think it needs to be a darker tinge. Okay. All right. There's one more warm color here we should use, which is the red bedspread. And the feeling of it is that is like this curvy red bedspread that comes down a little bit to the side of the bed. So you want to use like a bright red for that, or scarlet red, like he mentioned in his painting. I mean, in his letter. I feel like all these colors are very purposeful on Vincent's part. He spent an enormous amount of time in this bedroom. I'm using my red to define the kitchen towel or the hand towel. You'll see a very fine red line that outlines the towel at the bottom. Fix the towel a little bit more later. Okay, now we got that going. Let's focus on the blues now and the greens. So blues and greens, we got the wall and the darker doors. If you want to comply by his letter, then you might have chosen a lilac or a lavender. The doors are a darker color. So when you focus on the doors on the very left and the very right, just emphasize them with a darker tone than the walls alongside those doors. I'm going to be mixing some white into my blue for the doors. Just going to add my own interpretation of the blue. I'm using this color. It's called manganese blue hue. It's almost like a bright blue, if you will. So I'm going to use a little bit of that and tone it down for the walls. And as you can tell from the door frame, you'll need to outline that with a fine paintbrush and a darker color like Vincent did in his painting. The blue door shows through the chair at the lower left and behind the chair a little bit at an angle. And now I'm doing the lighter walls. At the very end, you might want to also add swift vertical white lines on the far end right wall here. That's kind of in line with the Japanese prints that Van Gogh would refer to. Like it's almost like he's trying to paint with like a wood print effect. So if you'll magnify the far right wall underneath the portraits and alongside them, he used swift white brush strokes building on top of the blue wall. Just little hint for you there on what he was trying to depict. Okay. Just doing the far end wall, and I'm noticing that we'll have to recreate the fine lines of where the floor meets the wall at the very end as well. That's like part of the fine detail that will make the perspective of the room pop. All right, hopefully you're starting to see the room come together now because we've done both some of the cool tones and the warm tones, and we're gradually building into those darker colors. Now I'm gonna re-emphasize the door on the right, which is, you know, the darker color. Now, since we have blue, we're going to do some of the blue accents. So there's Vincent's portrait where he wears a blue shirt, very abstract. So I'm just depicting basically just like that line that you see that comes down on his shoulder, like in the portrait. Just a little spot for his eyeballs. And then I'll come back and add white to the face. It's a very, very abstract portrait, so I'm just depicting that. There seems to be a teeny bit of blue in the horizon here in the landscape painting with a little bush, so I'm just depicting that. And then there's the blue clothing that's hanging off the shirt rack behind the bed. So I'm adding some blue, and you'll notice that darker blue to the right of the bed. So I'm just depicting a loose piece of clothing. And then I'll come back and re-emphasize with like a marker or thin painted line, the outlines of the shirt at the left of the bed frame. So that's that. And then we have the blue basin, water basin. If you can still see it, basically it comes up on top of the orange table, has a little spout, and it's in a water basin. So I'll come back and emphasize that. Has a lighter vase to the left of it. So that will need to be fine lined with paint as well. But right now I'm just creating space for it along with some coloring and the glass canisters too. Okay. In the mirror, there's a tinge of blue-green at the upper left corner. So I'm just doing that here. And I'll have to come back and outline the frame. It's a darker black. And then for the portraits, the two frames at the back wall, you'll see a fine wire line holding both. So I'm using a fine brush just to depict that. And I'm re-emphasizing the Y at the back of the room. It shows a little bit of the ceiling where the walls meet. And then you can go over that line with like a gray, like Vincent did. He also did a fine line here at the left-hand side wall. And then there's a line crease that meets the door here. All right, now we're gonna move on to the green. There's dark green and there's light green on the floor. So I'll start with the light green. Using my blue, I added some yellow and white to make a mint green. And I'm gonna just emphasize some of that, like a wood block effect, like Vincent did, short brush strokes. I know we sketched some of the outlines. You'll have to come back with a darker line at the very end for some of these, but the turquoise type strokes we can depict here in the tile, in the red tile. So I'm doing short brush strokes for that minty green effect. You might want to layer some color in between some of the lines here. He actually uses the mint green as the outline on the floor as well. And then you'll notice the darker strokes as little lines for emphasis at the very end. All right, and then the dark green window frame. So there's a dark green border of the window frame, and then the green light kind of gets gradually lighter into the actual window itself. So those are the things that we're gonna paint next. And I realize I'm over time. Oh, sorry, there's a hand that's raised. Do you have a question, Judith? Do you wanna unmute?
No question.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I saw a hand raised. Okay, great. So I'm just gonna finish our session with the dark green, and then I'll be posting the final painting after I do the outlines like we've been talking about on Instagram. And the dark green, basically I'm just leveraging yellow and blue, making my green. And we'll leverage the green in the landscape on the far end of the room as well. It's not as dark yet as I want. I'm gonna start layering it. There we go. This green is so striking that he tried to depict here, so I want to make sure that we get as close to that color. Okay, and then I'm using some white mixed in from that green to emphasize the window panes that are lighter green. And then we're using the green for that big tree in the portrait. Now I'm just kind of going back through the painting and filling out the blanks. Okay. All right. Just so we're out of time, so I'm just going to let you guys know what the next steps are. I'm going to go through and do the fine detailing now, which means basically I'm going to check the lines for the walls, make sure that those are outlined. The line that meets the floor, that's outlined. It'll start to bring everything together for you. Also, the emphasis of the tiles, you'll notice more of the emphasis in the outline of the tiles is in this area of the room. So it'd be like short strokes of brown, like an upside down U, an L here, for example, a straight line down here. And then also emphasizing the bottom of the bed, the top line curve of the bed, the far end curve of the bed, emphasizing the outline of the shirt, emphasizing the outline of the towel here, sorry, and emphasizing the shelf and edge of the orange table, along with the emphasis on the window frame itself. So I'm going to conclude our session. I'm really grateful that you were able to join this. Hopefully you were able to make a lot of progress on your painting. And even if not, feel free to take your time, enjoy this process. Hopefully I left you with some of Vincent's bedroom painting method, and also some of the letters that we discussed at the beginning. Hopefully this is inspiring to you and you enjoy this session. Thank you again so much for joining, and thanks for your patience with my with my phone landscape issue initially. I really appreciate you joining.
Do you have time for one question?
Yes.
When do you do the next session? Is this something that's going to happen again? Will it come up in Facebook?
Yeah, it'll come up in Facebook, or you can follow my Eventbrite series. Just search Open Door Studies on Eventbrite.
Okay, I joined.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, it'll be 1 month from today.
1 month from today. Great. Thank
and I
you.
usually send it out with the recording, the next upcoming event URL for signing up.
Okay.
And with the minor technical difficulties, what I'm going to do is share with everyone the prior Van Gogh session I had on the Starry Night. So that's the one that's behind the shoulder, my shoulder here. So yeah, thank you again for joining. Feel free to tag tag your masterpieces in Instagram once you're done. I added some suggested tags at the end of the PDF I emailed out, and I'll email out again.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.